Let me start with a simple question. Have you ever set a goal that you were excited about, truly excited about, only to find yourself weeks or months later right back where you started? You're not alone. In fact, most people never reach their goals, not because they're not capable, not because they're not smart or talented or driven, but because they misunderstand what goals are and what they are not. You see, goals are not the finish line. They are the starting signal. Most people treat a goal like a destination. Once I get there, I'll be happy. Once I reach that level, I'll be proud. Once I have this thing, I'll feel successful. But here's the truth. Reaching a goal doesn't change who you are. Becoming the kind of person who pursues it every day, that changes everything. Let's take a look at why most people never get there. First, their goals are based on outcomes, not identity. They want to have something: more money, better health, a title, a relationship, but they don't think about who they need to become in order to earn it. They say, I want to be rich, but don't adopt the mindset of someone who manages money with discipline. They say, I want to be in shape, but don't become the person who shows up when it's boring, when it's hard, when it's raining. Most people set goals with the belief that reaching them will complete something. They think, once I get this promotion, I'll be successful. Or once I lose this weight, I'll finally be confident. It sounds logical. Set a target, work toward it, and enjoy the reward. But the problem is that goals aren't finish lines. They're starting signals. They mark the beginning of a new version of you, not the end of an old one. This misunderstanding causes many people to feel defeated even after they've technically achieved what they set out to do. They lose weight but don't feel any different inside. They make more money but still feel unfulfilled. Why? Because they never changed who they were. They were chasing an outcome without becoming the kind of person who lives at that level consistently. Reaching a goal doesn't change your life if you haven't changed yourself along the way. When a runner hears the starting signal in a race, that's when the work begins. That's when everything they've trained for is put to the test. The same is true with personal or professional goals. Setting the goal is the easy part. Even planning for it is relatively simple. But the real journey begins when you start showing up every day for it, especially when you don't feel like it, especially when it's hard, and especially when no one is watching. People often assume that achieving the goal is the final act, but in reality, it's just the moment you step into a new standard. Reaching a goal should not be a one-time event. It should mark the beginning of a new habit, a new identity, a new way of living. The goal isn't to run a marathon once, it's to become someone who trains like a runner, eats like a runner, and thinks like a runner. The outcome is a reflection of who you've become along the way. This is why so many people fall back to their old patterns after reaching a milestone, because they never truly shifted their identity. They did what was required for a short period of time, but didn't become the type of person who sustains that behavior over the long term. They reached the goal and they stopped. But the goal was never meant to be a finish line. It was meant to initiate a new level of responsibility, consistency, and self-awareness. The most successful people don't see their goals as singular events. They use them as stepping stones. A goal gives them direction, but it doesn't define their worth or signal completion. They understand that the real reward is who they become by showing up day after day in the pursuit of something meaningful. They don't just want to cross a line, they want to evolve into someone who keeps raising the standard. When you treat goals like the end, you risk building your self-worth around temporary success. But when you treat them like the beginning, you open the door to growth, resilience, and long-term fulfillment. Reaching a goal isn't about arriving, it's about beginning. It's about committing to the person you were meant to be, not just for a season, but for a lifetime. So the next time you set a goal, don't ask yourself, what do I need to do to reach it? Ask yourself, who do I need to become to live like this every day? Because that's when the real journey begins. When most people set goals, they focus almost entirely on the outcome. They think about the result they want to achieve: more money, a better job, a fitter body, a stronger relationship. And while there's nothing wrong with having a clear result in mind, the problem is that outcome-based thinking often ignores the most important part of the process: who you need to become to sustain that result. Focusing only on the outcome creates a short-term mindset. It's like trying to harvest fruit without ever tending to the roots. Real, lasting change happens when you shift your focus from outcomes to identity. Instead of asking, what do I want to achieve? You start asking, who do I want to become? This simple shift changes everything. It turns goal setting from a temporary project into a lifelong transformation. Because when your goal is rooted in identity, your actions stop being obligations and start becoming expressions of who you are. Let's take an example. Someone says, I want to lose 20 pounds. That's an outcome. And maybe they hit that goal by dieting aggressively for a few months. But what happens when they reach it? If their identity is still that of someone who hates exercise and struggles with food, they'll almost always revert to old habits. Why? Because their actions weren't aligned with a new identity, they were just means to an end. They were trying to act like a healthy person instead of becoming one. On the other hand, if that same person shifts their identity to, I'm someone who takes care of my body, or I'm the kind of person who doesn't miss workouts, everything changes. The weight loss might still happen, but now it's a byproduct of who they are, not just a checkbox they're trying to tick. They're no longer forcing themselves to act differently, they're living in alignment with a new version of themselves. And that version is built to last. This applies to every area of life. Want to write a book? Don't just aim to publish. Become a writer, someone who writes consistently, who thinks like a storyteller, who sees the world through a creative lens. Want to grow a business? Don't just chase revenue. Become an entrepreneur, someone who solves problems, takes risks, and thinks long-term. When your actions come from identity, you don't need willpower to push yourself. You just act according to who you are. One of the reasons people give up on their goals is because they're trying to live in conflict with their current identity. They're saying, I want this new result, while still seeing themselves through the lens of who they've always been. That's exhausting. You're constantly negotiating with yourself, constantly trying to convince yourself to change. But when you begin to believe this is just who I am now, discipline becomes natural. You stop resisting growth and start embodying it. Identity-driven goals also create resilience. When obstacles show up, and they always do, outcome-based people get discouraged. I missed a day, so I failed. But identity-based people say, even when it's hard, I'm the kind of person who keeps going. They recover faster, stay grounded, and keep building because their actions are connected to something deeper than just a finish line. They're not chasing success, they're becoming someone who is capable of sustaining it. In the end, it's not about what you achieve, it's about who you become in the process. The outcome matters, yes. But identity is what makes the change permanent. So if you're serious about reaching your goal, start with this question: what kind of person achieves this result consistently? Then make it your mission to become that person every day in every small choice. Because once you do, the outcomes take care of themselves. One of the biggest reasons people give up on their goals is because they fall in love with the idea of the reward, but not the reality of the work. They picture the prize, the promotion, the six-pack, the recognition, the financial freedom, and they get excited. Motivation spikes, energy surges, and they feel ready to take on the world. But the moment progress becomes slow, repetitive, or inconvenient, that excitement fades. Why? Because they were in love with the destination, not the journey. The truth is, every worthwhile goal comes with a long, often boring, and frequently frustrating process. Success isn't made of highlight reels, it's made of quiet mornings, late nights, and the same actions repeated with patience and precision. The people who actually reach their goals are not the ones who simply want the prize the most, they're the ones who are willing to fall in love with the process that leads to it. When you're focused only on the outcome, your motivation is fragile. You begin to expect fast results. And when they don't show up, you question yourself. You ask, is this working? Or is it even worth it? But when you're in love with the process, you stop obsessing over immediate results. You find satisfaction in the effort itself. You learn to. Or consider an athlete. Training every day isn't always exciting. It's grueling. It's lonely. It's often invisible to the outside world. But champions are made in those hours when no one's watching, when it would be easy to quit, when it would feel good to skip a day. The athlete who embraces the process, who learns to love the hard parts, is the one who eventually gets the prize. The same applies to business, relationships, personal growth, anything. If you only love the goal, you'll stop the moment it stops being fun. But if you love the process, you'll keep going long after the excitement fades. And that's where the real progress happens. This mindset shift is what separates the dreamers from the doers. Dreamers get addicted to results. Doers get addicted to the work. Dreamers search for hacks. Doers build habits. Dreamers wait to feel ready. Doers take the next step even when it's uncomfortable. When you fall in love with the process, you take pressure off the outcome. Ironically, that's when you start to make real progress. You stop measuring success by what you've achieved and start measuring it by what you've become. You build confidence not from results, but from consistency. You don't need external validation, you have internal proof. So the question is not just, do you want the prize? The question is, are you willing to love the path that leads to it? Because in the end, the people who reach the top are not the ones who chase rewards. They're the ones who find meaning, mastery, and joy in the work itself. And when you do that, the prize becomes inevitable. ChatGPT said, many people believe that motivation is the key to success. They wait to feel inspired before taking action. They rely on bursts of energy, excitement, or enthusiasm to move forward. And while motivation can be helpful, it's also unreliable. It comes and goes. Some days you wake up ready to conquer the world, and other days you don't even feel like getting out of bed. If your progress depends on being motivated, your progress will always be inconsistent. That's why consistency beats motivation every single time. Consistency is what moves the needle. It's what turns intention into reality. It's the quiet, repetitive, unglamorous effort that stacks up over time and creates massive results. The people who achieve their goals don't wake up motivated every day, they wake up committed. They've built habits that don't rely on emotion. They don't ask themselves, do I feel like doing this today? They've already decided, this is what I do, no matter what. Think about brushing your teeth. You don't need to be motivated to do it, you just do it. Because it's part of your routine. You've built it into your life to the point we're not doing. It feels strange. That's how your approach to your goals should be. Whether it's writing, working out, learning, or building something meaningful, success comes from turning the action into a non-negotiable part of who you are. The problem with relying on motivation is that it's emotional. And emotions fluctuate. You're not always going to feel driven. Life is going to test you. You'll have days when you're tired, discouraged, distracted, or stressed. If you depend on motivation during those moments, you'll stop. But if you've built consistency, if you've created systems, habits, and structure, you'll keep going anyway. And that's when growth happens. Not when it's easy, but when it's hard and you keep showing up. Consistency builds trust with yourself. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen your identity. You start to believe, I'm the kind of person who follows through. That belief is powerful. It creates a cycle of self-respect and momentum. You take action, you see progress, and you begin to expect more from yourself, not out of pressure, but out of belief. Motivation might help you start, but consistency is what finishes the job. It's the daily commitment to improvement, even when the excitement wears off. It's doing the work when it's boring. It's choosing discipline over distraction. It's showing up on day 17 when the novelty is gone and no one is cheering for you. Because you know something important, success doesn't come from what you do occasionally. It comes from what you do repeatedly. This is why small daily actions matter more than big bursts of effort. One intense workout doesn't make you fit. One amazing sales day doesn't make your business successful. One brilliant idea doesn't build a career. But showing up day after day, especially when it's hard, that's what transforms potential into progress. It's tempting to look for hacks, shortcuts, or motivation boosts. But the real secret is simple. Consistency is the compound interest of self-improvement. It may not feel like much in the moment, but over time it creates unstoppable momentum. You may not see immediate results, but that doesn't mean nothing is happening. Every action is a vote for the kind of person you want to become. So stop waiting to feel motivated. Start becoming consistent. Build systems that support your goals. Create routines that protect your priorities. Show up when it's exciting, and especially when it's not. Because if you stay consistent long enough, motivation will return not as a starting point, but as a reflection of the confidence you've built. And that kind of motivation, the kind that comes from progress, is the most powerful of all. No one likes pain. We're wired to avoid it, escape it, numb it. From an early age, we're taught that pain is a sign something is wrong, something to be fixed or fled from. But when it comes to growth, that idea is completely backward. Because pain isn't always a warning to stop. In fact, when you're pursuing a meaningful goal, pain is often the clear sign that you're on the right path. Discomfort, resistance, frustration, these aren't signals to retreat. They're evidence that you're changing, stretching, stepping beyond who you used to be. Pain is part of the process. Anything worth having demands a price. You want to grow stronger. Your muscles need to tear. You want to build a business. You'll have to face rejection, doubt, and failure. You want a deep relationship. You'll have to open yourself up to vulnerability and hard conversations. There is no achievement without challenge, and there is no transformation without some form of discomfort. The sooner you stop running from pain and start accepting it as part of the journey, the faster you grow. This doesn't mean you chase suffering for its own sake. It means you stop expecting the path to be easy. It means you stop mistaking resistance for a sign that you're not ready. If something matters to you, you'll experience resistance. If it challenges you, it will hurt sometimes. And if you avoid all pain, you also avoid progress. Comfort zones are safe, but nothing grows there. Everything you want lives on the other side of discomfort. Pain teaches you things ease never will. It humbles you. It reveals your limits. It exposes your excuses. And if you're willing to face it, not resent it, not fear it, but face it, it builds something deeper than strength. It builds character. The kind of character that doesn't fold under pressure, that doesn't panic when things go wrong, that doesn't quit just because it hurts. That kind of resilience can only be forged in difficulty. There's a moment in every journey where the excitement fades. The goal still matters, but the energy is gone. It's just you and the grind, and nothing feels good. That's where most people quit. Not because they can't do it, but because they weren't prepared for the pain. They thought the path would feel like progress every day. But real progress often feels like failure while it's happening. You're sore, tired, unsure, and questioning everything, yet that's exactly where growth begins. The people who reach the top are not the ones who avoid pain. They're the ones who learn how to carry it. They don't see it as a threat, they see it as training. They know that every painful moment is shaping them, strengthening them, preparing them. They understand that success isn't the absence of pain, it's the ability to move through it with purpose. Pain refines you. It breaks down what's weak and builds up what's strong. It doesn't mean you're broken, it means you're becoming. The key is learning how to endure pain with perspective. Instead of saying, this hurts, something must be wrong, you say, this hurts and that means I'm growing. You stop trying to avoid hard things and start leaning into them with intention. You realize that every obstacle is an opportunity to practice who you're becoming. And slowly you stop fearing pain, not because it goes away, but because you've learned you're stronger than it. In the end, pain doesn't block the path, it is the path. The discomfort, the setbacks, the failures, they're not distractions from your goal, they are the process that leads you there. So when pain shows up, don't run. Don't retreat, stand in it. Work through it. Let it shape you. Because the goal isn't just to get what you want, it's to become someone who's capable of holding it. And that kind of person is always forged in fire. When things get hard, and they always do, most people look for reasons to quit. They get tired, discouraged, overwhelmed. The excitement that once pushed them forward begins to fade. Doubt creeps in, discipline slips. And unless something deeper is driving them, they give up. That's why purpose matters. It's not just a motivational slogan, it's your fuel. Without purpose, persistence dies. With it, you can keep going long after everyone else has stopped. Purpose gives your pain meaning, your effort direction, and your actions power. Goals alone won't keep you going. They can point you in a direction, but they don't always help you stay on the path. Life will challenge you with delays, distractions, and disappointments. If all you have is a surface-level desire to lose weight, make money, get recognition, you'll struggle when those challenges show up. But when your goal is tied to something deeper, when there's a why behind you or what you develop a different kind of strength. You're no longer just chasing a result, you're living out a mission. Purpose is what makes struggle worth it. If you're doing something hard with no meaningful reason, it feels like suffering. But if you believe in what you're doing, the struggle becomes part of the story. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this building in me? You find energy in places you didn't know existed, not because the pain goes away, but because you know it's leading somewhere. Important. Purpose also gives you clarity. When you know what matters most, you know what you know to say no to. You stop chasing distractions. You stop comparing yourself to everyone else. You stop measuring your progress against the wrong metrics. You move with intention. You act in alignment with something larger than comfort or convenience. And that alignment gives you power that motivation alone could never provide. The people who build extraordinary lives aren't the ones who had it easy. They're the ones who had a reason to keep showing up when it got hard. They didn't keep going because it felt good. They kept going because it meant something. They had a purpose that was bigger than their excuses. And because of that, they endured longer, learned faster, and pushed further than those who were only in it for the quick win. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need constant motivation. What you need is a reason, one that matters to you. Maybe it's your family. Maybe it's proving to yourself that you're capable of more. Maybe it's the impact you want to make or the story you want to tell when it's all said and done. Whatever it is, anchor to it. Remind yourself of it. Speak it out loud when you want to quit. Write it down when your vision starts to blur. Persistence isn't about being superhuman. It's about being clear. It's about knowing that even when things hurt, even when progress is slow, even when nobody sees your effort, it still matters because you know why you're doing it. And that why will carry you when willpower fails. Purpose doesn't eliminate pain, but it gives the pain a point. It turns sacrifice into investment. It transforms effort into legacy. And that shift changes everything. Suddenly, every small step matters. Every challenge becomes part of the proof that you're committed. You're no longer chasing a dream, you're honoring a purpose. And that is a far more powerful reason to persist. So when you feel stuck, tired, or tempted to quit, don't just ask, what do I need to do? Ask, why does this matter to me? Because the answer to that question might be the very thing that gets you through the hardest part of the journey.